Hello, this is Gail Alston with the Rosalind Carter Institute for Caregiving, our training center for excellence. I want to thank you for your interest in the Rci Reach program. At the Rosalind Carter Institute, we believe that evidence-based caregiver supports provide the best chance to positively impact the quality of the life of family caregivers and the people for whom they care. The Rosalind Carter Institute has been involved in the implementation of Rci Reach for over 5 years. We look forward to the opportunity to provide training and support to your agency as you deliver the program, this proven service in your community. If I had to surmise what Reach is all about in one word, I would have to say that word is hope. Reach is a program that's developed to serve caregivers of someone with dementia. And as you probably know, this is a very challenging task to take on. However, there are positive things about caregiving for people with dementia, as well as there is hope in learning and developing the right skills and tools and resources to make that caregiving experience much more positive than it would be without the intervention and support of a program like Rci Reach. Reach focuses on those positive aspects, provides training and utilization of those skills. We also use a risk assessment which tailors the intervention to each individual that's served. There's no cookie cutters here. We really want to get to what that caregiver needs and then do our very best to give them the most valuable supports possible. Rci Reach is actually based on the Reach VA model of the original Reach 2 intervention. Of course, Reach stands for Resources for Enhancing Alzheimer's Caregivers' Health, a very successful, very highly recognized intervention that was developed years ago by a team of research scientists. Reach was developed specifically for dementia caregivers because of their higher level of stress and burden. And if you have been such a caregiver or if you know such a caregiver, you probably recognize all of those little labels they have attached to this person. It's a very challenging job. However, for those caregivers that are lucky enough to have been enrolled in the Rci Reach program, we found that we were able to greatly reduce their burden. That's what you'll see there on the left in the chart, and caregiver depression there on the right. Furthermore, we reduce the frustration caregivers express with the problem behaviors that are associated with dementia caregiving. In other words, Reach delivers real results. There are several key components of the Rci Reach. When we talk about key components in evidence-based programs, we're speaking about those activities, that information shared, those parts of the intervention which we believe contribute to the proven outcomes of the intervention. It is a highly structured and scripted intervention. The sessions are completely laid out for the interventionist, and they do that to ensure fidelity. It's very important. If you want to achieve the same outcomes as the evidence-based intervention, you have to deliver it with fidelity to the original protocol. And by having these structured, scripted sessions available for the interventionists, then you're ensured the ability to deliver that service with fidelity to the original clinical trial. The areas that's addressed is the safety for both the caregiver and the care recipient. We address isolation by connecting caregivers involved in the program with each other through our telephone support groups. The mood management, which is a variety of strategies, of exercises, of activities that are focused on battling depression. The stress management, there's also several different stress management techniques that are taught during this intervention that gives the caregiver a healthy alternative to coping with the stress that is a natural part of caregiving. The problem-solving strategies specifically focus on those behaviors that dementia care patients have the, different ones are going to have different behaviors. They're going to affect the caregivers in different ways. But we give the caregiver an opportunity to discuss what are those behaviors that try your patients the most, that you find the most difficult with, and let's talk about strategies that may help limit that behavior, but even over and beyond that, it helps you better cope and understand so it does not frustrate you at those tremendous levels. Excuse me. Finally, an important component of RCI Reach is the caregiver notebook. In that notebook there are two sections. One section provides a list of strategies to address specific problems and challenges that are faced by the caregiver, such as medication management, how to communicate with medical professionals, those kind of issues that the caregiver is going to face. And then there's that other section, like I spoke about earlier, that's specific to the problem behaviors that the care recipient will be demonstrating. It's just full of explanations of why this is happening and lists of strategies that have been proven to be effective for the caregiver to try out in their situation. Reach has actually 12 sessions that's delivered over a 6-month period. During those sessions you have education and empowerment that is providing the caregiver the information they need about the disease itself so they can better understand why their loved one is behaving the way they are. It's also giving them those skills so that they're empowered. They're not going to be continually reliant on other people to help them problem solve. They're going to be learning how to problem solve on their own. There is some flexibility between the in-home and telephone delivery. The standard operation is that you have 9 home-delivered sessions and 3 telephone-delivered sessions. However, that can be adjusted based on the needs of the caregiver or the availability of the caregiver for those in-home sessions. Reach is what we call focused and targeted, and this speaks back to the opposite of being a cookie cutter. It's focused on the areas that are identified during the risk appraisal or the assessment, and then how much time is spent on that is determined by the needs of the caregiver. Some caregivers need a great deal of work on certain areas of concern, whereas others, you go through a few strategies and they go, you know, I got this. So it's very flexible in that it can go as deep or as shallow as is needed based on the individual caregiver that you're working with. The telephone support group is provided 5 times during the life of the intervention. These are our 5 topics that are discussed. You can see they're very important topics for caregivers, from their healthy lifestyle, communication skills, how and where to access community resources, and then financial and legal issues, which can be downright confusing for caregivers as they are busy with their hands-on caregiving. It's very difficult for them to find the time to really gain understanding and mastery of financial and legal aspects of their caregiving. Most of the time, however, during these telephone support groups is available for interaction among the caregivers, and we find that that peer support piece of the telephone support group is very helpful on both sides. The people who are giving help, they enjoy that. That's why they're caregivers. It makes them feel good. It makes them feel like part of the community. And also they learn so much from each other that it's oftentimes the better part of the session. The outcomes from RCI Reach include, as I said in the very opening slide, a reduction in caregiver depression, reduction in caregiver burden, and a reduction in frustration with problem behaviors. We may or may not be able to impact the behavior of the care recipient. We might be able to make their behaviors a little less problematic. However, the big piece is helping the caregivers understand the problem behavior to the point where they're not as frustrated by it. They're more able to accept it and then work around it rather than allowing it to disrupt them and escalate their sense of stress and burden. This might be a little difficult to read, a little tiny print, but we're so excited about it because when we ran our program evaluation and spoke directly to the caregivers, we got such glowing responses. And what we basically found out was the caregivers just love participating in this program. As you'll see, they felt 100% of them felt like they got overall benefit. 100% said they better understand memory loss and its effects. And here's a really big one, feeling confident in dealing with care recipients' memory problems. They saw 100% improvement in that area. So all of our feedback was so positive. 100% of the caregivers we served said that they would recommend the program to others, and they felt that all families that are coping with dementia should be allowed to participate in a program such as this. Oh, I'm sorry. The cost of, I'm sharing with you our cost analysis for a program that we implemented through the RCI Caregiver Support Center. And let me give you this caveat. We did provide services over, ended up being 15 counties over a very large area in Georgia, and it required sometimes up to a 2-hour drive each way to deliver these sessions in the home of the caregivers. And that would make it somewhat more expensive in those kinds of areas than it would be if you're delivering in an urban setting. I just wanted to let you know that. Also, the caseload of 22 caregiving families could be impacted about how rural the people are that you are serving. In an urban area, you would probably be able to have more families on a caseload than that because your travel time would not be so great. We believe that an RCI Reach care coach is best to have a background in social services. The understanding of dementia and the challenges associated with caring for someone with dementia is probably the most critical piece of selection of your staff to deliver Reach. Also, people that are familiar with coaching skills rather than simple information and referral skills. We want them to have the patience and the understanding that you're teaching the caregivers these skills of mood management, stress management, problem solving, so that once the intervention is over, they will have those skills in place and be prepared for what lies ahead on their own. We really are proud of the kind of feedback we get from our caregivers that were served. As you can see, this one particular said, you know, I really feel so much better about things after our visit. At first I didn't think I needed help, but now that I see how much better I feel, I know that I did need help. And we hear that so many times. So many times the caregivers will say, you know, I'm okay. You're doing the assessment. I'm not really stressed. I'm okay. And then when the interventionist comes out to the home and meets with them, they can see that there is a great deal of stress involved in what they're doing, and that they are in great need of the types of supports and the information and the techniques and the strategies that we're going to provide via RCI Reach. So it's very gratifying when we hear someone say, you know what, I didn't think I needed you at all, but now I see that you have really made my life better. This caregiver, I've really liked her comments. I've been to support groups and read informational books, but this has been by far the most helpful. I think that this goes to that one-on-one delivery. You know, you may have a lot of questions, a lot of individual things that are specific to your situation, but you can go to classes and not really have a chance to get your questions answered. You can read a book, but you might not fully understand it. You might just wish someone was sitting there that could answer your specific questions, and that's what that Reach interventionist can do. And that's why I think it's so, they find it so much more beneficial than some of the other supports that they've reached out for. We hope that you'd be interested in bringing RCI Reach to your community, and if you are, we do have training packages available for your agencies. What's included in that is an RCI Master Trainer would come to your site and provide a 1.5-day training for up to 10 individuals. Then we would enter into the certification process for up to 4 RCI Reach interventionists. A lot of people say, well, why in the world would we want 10 people trained and only 4 people certified? Well, best practices tell us that you should really have anyone who's associated with the program fully trained in the delivery of the intervention, even though they may never have to sit down with a client and provide the service. This is so that from the person who answers the phone when someone calls to inquire about the intervention to the supervisor who's responsible making sure that intervention is being delivered with fidelity, they need to know all the nuts and bolts, all the ins and outs. So they should sit through that full training as well. The certification process is in depth. You are required to do some reading prior to the classroom setting. You must achieve a passing grade on an open book test. Then we have what we call our Mastery of Skills demonstration, which is a role play conducted by Skype, in which the candidate for certification will deliver a session to a volunteer, mock perhaps caregiver, while being observed by the master trainer via Skype. We find that this is an excellent way to not only assure RCI that we have the best possible people in the field delivering this intervention, but also it gives that interventionist the opportunity to live that first session so that they've overcome any of that maybe stage fright or any trepidation they might have about that first session. It's a win-win, and we take it very seriously, and we feel it really makes for a more successful intervention in the field. We also are very familiar with the problems agencies go through with staff turnover. You know, you bring in a new intervention, a new program, you get people trained in it, and then 6 months down the road, maybe even just 3 months down the road, that person, for whatever reason, leaves your agency. And now you're back to square one, having to find and train a new interventionist. Well, we can't help you with the finding that new interventionist, but we can certainly help you with minimizing the cost of training that new interventionist. For the first year after your first initial training class, RCI will provide training and certification for up to 4 interventionists that are hired due to staff turnover. Now, that training is provided via the Internet rather than face-to-face, but since we will be training a number of people within your agency face-to-face, we feel that they can serve as mentors to that new staff who are receiving the training via the Internet. This training package also includes monthly consultations. If when you begin, you may have some pre-implementation issues. Once you start implementation, you may run into some situations that you're just not sure how to handle. Well, that's what we're here for. We would encourage you to call us and talk to us about anything that's going on out there that you feel is not quite right with the implementation. Your success is our success. It's very important to us that you have a great implementation of this very important intervention. The training package fees, if a master trainer comes to your site, then the fee is $5,000 plus any travel expenses for that trainer. If you choose to send people to RCI, your interventionist to RCI for the training, then it's rate of $3,500. Now that price includes all training manuals and 1 caregiver notebook. If you have any interest in this, and I hope you do, I encourage you to call me or email me. You'll see the number there, my email, gayle.alston@gsw.edu. I would love to discuss how we can partner with you, help you bring this very valuable intervention to your community. I promise you there are caregivers around your agency right now that are in great need for the kinds of support, the encouragement, and the hope that we can offer through RCI Reach. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Please stand by.